Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Peter Coffey.
Good afternoon. It's been mentioned that I've been at all but one of these, and I keep coming back because no matter how much I keep telling people in other cities about this conference, they don't get the idea and they don't imitate it. So I have to keep coming back here every year because I have not found any other event that's nailed this remarkable combination of the resources of a world-class academic community, access to a tremendous and vital and far-seeing financial community, and the notion that by putting these things all together, it can be a powerful incubator for an entrepreneurial community. And that unique combination, I think, is something that Phorum continues to do consistently year after year. Among the first things that was said today was the comment, well, what were we thinking 15 years ago? And I did a couple of quick, pieces of research to find out what we weren't thinking 15 years ago. Because 15 years ago, Amazon Web Services, their first offering, Simple Storage, was still 2 years away. Google Docs, or for that matter, Google Mail, were still considered pilot projects, at least 2 years away from availability. And when you think about the context in which we get our everyday lives done, in which we imagine a company being able to come to market without daunting and maybe overwhelming investments in compute infrastructure as the ante just to be able to play the poker hand, we really are working in a very different environment. Now you might say, okay, I can't really plan on a 15-year horizon. So let's talk about 1 year ago, when Cambridge Analytica was still in business, when we didn't ask our airlines, which version of a 737 am I going to be flying today? Those two incidents in the past year have altered the conversation around trust in those who collect and manage our data, those who propose to offer autonomous systems that will do things more consistently and more safely. And sometimes those moments of punctuation change conversations, change markets in ways that persist for many years afterwards. So in a situation where one incident, one tweet, can alter a global conversation and maybe have impacts that last for years, how is it possible to develop strategies? An article also in the past year at Harvard Business Review talked about that word strategy and how often it's aspirational and maybe even self-delusional. The observation was made, as I've been interpreting it subsequently, that many statements that are called a strategy are a description of an end state. We're going to become innovative is not a strategy any more than I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to get rich. None of those statements implies an action plan. They merely describe a desired goal. A goal is a point. A line that gets you to that goal is not a strategy either. That's just a plan. And arguably, strategies are tools that generate plans, that for a wide range of foreseeable situations, you don't have to, quote, change your strategy. You have to consult your strategy and say, what's the updated plan? It is, of course, a far more difficult thing to do, to construct one of those. It leads us to the conversation around digital transformation, which many people say our strategy is to undergo a digital transformation. So you're going to be losing weight. The outcome today of a transformation cannot be a transformed company that thinks it's going to be able to coast for a few years and then maybe undergo another transformation. I don't know what comes after digital transformation, genetic transformation. I don't know what we'll call it then. But you can't just say, we're going to do a transformation. The outcome of your transformation project should, in fact, be an organization capable from that time on of continuous transformation. And I'm going to steal an idea from Vikram in the session a moment ago, that one could also argue that just as you don't hire a leader, you create an organization that can generate leaders. So organizations must become transformable, and must become, to coin an even worse word, leaderable, which is reminding me of something that Andy Grove at Intel once said, which is that I can't pay you the salary of a manager if you're merely a supervisor. I need you to be someone who develops talent. I need you to be someone who creates the person who could plausibly succeed you, and maybe 2 or 3 of those so that we can grow, so that we can have leadership grown from within. There are some companies that do this in a really intentional and structured way. When I first went to work for what was then Exxon Chemical before the merger, I now have to kick myself in the head to always remember to say Exxon Mobil, like I'm no longer allowed to use the word Soviets anymore. I have to say, no, Russians. The statement was made in an article in Texas Monthly that at the time Exxon Corporation knew for a fact, because of their policies of promotion from within and of mandatory retirement age, they knew for a fact that a future chairman of Exxon had been hired sometime in the past 5 years. And every manager in the company understood that it was their job to help figure out who that person was and make sure they stuck around, and make sure that they were developed and given exposure to all the facets. It is possible, even as a Fortune 1 company, to have that kind of orientation toward what Vikram was referring to with irony as, well, that's just the soft stuff, it doesn't matter. You might think there's no business that doesn't need the soft stuff as much as Exxon doesn't. I mean, after all, what do? They get molecules out of the ground, they catalytically crack them, they put them out of a pump. But they understood that among their most important assets was not merely leadership, but a process of developing generation after generation of that leadership. Strategies generate plans, and cultures generate their own leaders, the leaders that they're going to need. Another takeaway from today was that great comment made by Abhi. Imagine that you're living in a time when the fulcrum, the wheel, plastics, and semiconductors are all being invented simultaneously. This reminds me of what someone said about trying to understand modern China. Imagine you're in a country where the first industrial revolution and the computer revolution are happening simultaneously, because that's the kind of thing that's going on. And then put that in the context of something that was said by Pat Gelsinger at VMware. Now that you've grasped that intensity of change, that multifaceted nature of change, now try to wrap your head around the idea that this is the slowest pace of change that you will face at any point during the rest of your life, because all of the trends are continuing acceleration. The cycles of change are themselves shrinking. And so we must not think that we will succeed by tightening the cycle of our batch processes of innovation. We must move to continuous processes that are capable of continuous transformation, continuous creation of new leaders if we want to remain viable in these situations. Sometimes innovation requires that we turn our concept of a problem essentially inside out. I recently had cause to go look at the history of timekeeping. I'll tell you why that came up in a moment. That when John Harrison wanted to build a clock that was capable of being on a ship with the motion and the rocking and everything else, and yet still keep time reliably enough to calculate longitude, he began, understandably enough, with the most accurate clocks available in that time, and then attempted to add mechanisms that could compensate for their motion. It was a perfectly reasonable strategy of incremental improvement. And he worked on this for about 25, 26 years, during which time his so-called H1 chronometer became a device with 1,500 parts. And I'm not counting the 4,000 handmade chain links as separate parts, because that would make it 5,500 parts. And it did okay, but it didn't do well enough. And then after that more than 2 decades of work, a moment of pivot arrived when he thought, what if I start at the opposite end and start with a pocket watch designed inherently to be tolerant of motion, and then try to figure out what it takes to make that accurate, instead of starting with a highly accurate table clock and trying to make that not care about being moved. The resulting device was smaller, more rugged, and kept better time. If only he'd had that idea 26 years earlier. And what led me to start thinking about this at all was something that happened at Basel World just last week or the week before, where the world's largest annual exhibition of new watch technology takes place, when Zenith showed that they were going to take something that had been available only in prototype form and turn it into a somewhat limited production and expensive timepiece that replaces 30 separate parts of a mechanical watch with one single 3D printed monocrystalline silicon object, which by oscillating 15 times a second, your watch, if you have a watch that ticks, probably ticks somewhere between 3 and 5 times a second, and can handle a 5,000 G shock, which, if you've never dropped a watch, will bend a metal mainspring and shatter a carbon one, and this thing just won't care. This is radical, and it does not come from any amount of incremental improvement of mechanisms of timekeeping as we've known them for hundreds of years. Innovation is like that. It tries to forget that it knows how to do things and looks through very fresh eyes at what is the problem we're trying to solve, what are, if there are any, fundamental physical laws that we have to respect, and of course, it looks through all of that to remember that at some point there's a customer whose need is being met, not a clever invention for which a market is being sought. Because that is one of the things that I think came through in several of the conversations today. Always remember that there's a customer or a human or an organization that has a need. And if you're always focused on that, a colleague of mine named Dan DeBow once said, if you fall in love with your clever idea, you may have an amazing entrepreneurial success. But if you fall in love with a problem, then every successive generation of radically new ways to solve that problem is your friend, not your enemy, and you can have a steady string of those amazing successes. Now, with that as kind of, a goal and as a thought about, what I think makes this event special, it is now my privilege to bring to the stage someone whose professional biography begins with a statement that really resonates with what I think Phorum is all about. We sit in a privileged position, lucky enough to be inspired each day by amazing entrepreneurs pursuing big visions that can revolutionize industries. Continuing, he says, I get energized, helping them realize those opportunities by finding the right balance between acting as a strategic thought partner and digging into the details to challenge hypotheses, see around the corners, identify solutions, and build great companies. The man who said that is about to come to the stage. Please welcome Sean Dowling, principal of Osage Venture Partners, to tell you who won the demo. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't think anyone would ever read that, particularly in front of a big crowd.
First thing comes up when you're good.
Well, thanks so much. Again, privileged to be sponsor of the Demo Pit. Osage Venture Partners together with Bentley Systems, and I'm here to present, which I'm sure everyone has been waiting for, the winner of the Phorum Forward Award, which is the best demo pit company for 2019. Again, I want to thank our judges, which is a great mix of investors with Jason and Kapil, and Innovative Enterprises with Srinath from Vanguard and Sanjay from SEI. And before I announce the winner, I want to first congratulate all of the demo pit companies for the time that they took today and really developing some of the customer forward true innovation that Peter was just describing, and sort of be the next generation of leaders here in the area of digital disruption. So round of applause for all the companies, first of all. As the judges kind of came to three finalists that I think hit some of the themes from today. The first being SmartTex, which is chasing a big opportunity to building an innovative solution to leverage emerging technology like augmented reality, truly improve human capabilities in a really immersive way, and so aligns with that theme. The second was Crossbeam, which is helping break down data silos and overcome some trust challenges to enable the types of collaboration that are required in a digital age. And then the third finalist was Benefix, which is chasing a very large market that's truly ripe for digital disruption, but doing so in a way that recognizes that the people at the center of that industry need to be enabled as opposed to be replaced with technology. So for our three finalists, SmartTex, Crossbeam, and Benefix, the winner this year, as chosen by the judges, is Crossbeam. So I'd like to invite Bob Moore up to the stage to receive his award. I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I get to close it and send you to cocktails. Again, a round of applause and thanks for our Demo Pit sponsor, Osage Venture Partners and Bentley Systems. So it's been an exciting day, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here to engage, hopefully to learn, and encourage you to take just a kernel, maybe many kernels of what you picked up here today and bring them back. Share them with colleagues, share them outside your organization, press forward. There are so many different pieces, and Peter did just an incredible job in synthesizing it for all of us. But we want to also invite you now to further the conversation. Downstairs in Hugo's Bar, we're going to have some after-event drinks, and we hope that you can join us for even a few minutes downstairs. Last but not least, I want to once again thank all of our sponsors and ask you to join me in thanking them, led by our presenting sponsors, Capgemini Event and Fairmount Partners. We couldn't do this without a big group of people, including my team, which I thank. Our very own Phyllis Hart, who has been tremendous, Phyllis, in helping us to put this together. Certainly the tech team led by Tony and others, and an incredible advisory board. And so we thank all of you again, once again, for your participation today and look forward to seeing you at a future PACT event.